Welcome to Brandstorm, the podcast that talks to the people behind America's brands. I'm Dan Trzynski, president of Platypus Advertising and Design.
And I'm Nancy Christopher, PR director at Platypus. Our guest today works for a company that exists to help people do better work. And Dan, I have to say, our guest today actually did help me do better work.
Thank you, Kyle.
Thanks for having me.
You know, when I wrote to him, we have a form that we send out to our Brandstorm guests, and I had it in a PDF, and he suggested it become a Google Doc so that people could fill it out easier. So I did that, Kyle. Thank you.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I appreciate that.
All right, so our guest is Kyle Lacy. He's the VP of Marketing for Lessonly, which is a modern team learning software company based in Indianapolis. It's great to have you with us, Kyle.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, and thank you again for the help. What exactly is a modern team learning software company, and how can it help me do better work?
So Modern Team Learning, we're basically online training software. So we exist to serve employees in sales roles, customer service roles, any role that's customer facing. So customer success, and we have software that allows people to create really easy to use lessons that can train on everything from product differentiation to product enablement to here's how you use Salesforce, here's how you use a new technology we have, to onboarding. Like here's our values and missions as a company. Usually our customers see a decrease in churn because educated, knowledgeable employees are usually happier, and they see a decrease in onboarding time. So if you think about if you're hiring salespeople at your agency, you want them to get to productivity faster because they sell more. So that's kind of why we exist.
Okay, so your literature says that the highest performing companies build their training on the same 6 pillars. Tell our audience what those pillars are.
The 6 pillars are very, very important. I mean, for the most part, there's 3 out of all 6 that are the most important overall, and that's learn, practice, and perform. You have to learn as employees, your employees have to practice, and then they have to be able to perform off of all of the information that you're giving them on a daily basis. And we believe that the most important part of those tenets are employees learning, employees practicing, and then you measuring performance. At the beginning of it, it's very important as managers and leaders that you plan, build, and assess around what your team needs in order for them to be successful. So if you're a marketing team, you might need more product marketing help. You might want to train the sales team on the ebook you just put out. Or if you're an events person, you might want to train the entire company on what to expect at a field marketing event that you're having in Austin, Texas, as an example. So just to go through those step by step, it's assess, plan, build, and then learn, practice, perform. And it kind of evolves around those 6 pillars. We believe that the most important one is practice. If you think of any athlete or musician that are really good at what they do, they practice. And it's funny that we don't talk about that for our employees.
Yeah, you don't think of that in your daily work, that you ever practice what you really do versus just doing it.
I saw online that in the customer service space, a customer comes up and says, I want to return this. And then the representative has to respond to that. And they see a sample on the video itself, then they have to practice doing it themselves. Does their supervisor, are they there with them? Do they quiz them later? How exactly do they show that they've been practicing the way they should?
Yeah, it's all built in the platform. And you guys, we're all branding people, right? Everybody listening to this is probably involved in branding. The experience that a customer or prospect has with a brand is the only thing that makes you relevant as an employee and as a company, right? So what we believe is if you are a frontline salesperson at a retail store, you are practicing the new product pitches on video, and your manager is giving you that feedback within the Lessonly app. So a manager can look at 5 videos, give rankings on how good those pitches were, and give feedback to the rep or the frontline sales team. So it's all built within the app. We believe that training should be continuous and not just throwing people in a room once a year.
And is it mobile friendly? Can they practice at home and do that? Oh, that's awesome.
Who have you helped train?
Oh man, our main customers are large retailers. People like product companies, CPG like Jostens, telecom like US Cellular. We have a lot of software companies like Zendesk and SalesLoft and Cisco. So it ranges across the board. We have a lot of SMB and quite a few enterprise as well.
But it's primarily retail, correct?
No, it's pretty much the top 3 are retail, e-commerce, telecom, and software. And then we have some like direct-to-consumer brands like Blue Apron And then we have some 1099 type customers like Deliveroo as an example.
Blue Apron, I tried their product. It's really good.
Yeah, it's great.
So, what areas of training do you provide, or is the training provided by the organization and your platform just presents that training?
Yeah, we provide the platform. Most of the time, the organization provides the training, but we also have a services team of basically training experts that create content for people if they need a jump start.
Yeah, who trains the trainers?
That's a great question.
How do you begin? I mean, if you're a company that doesn't have a formal training program but recognizes that you need one.
Well, you do need a formal training program in some regards, but we were built off of the idea that you should always have speed over fidelity. So if I can knock out a lesson in the airport about a competitor that I just met at a conference and share it with the sales and marketing teams, and it's easy to consume and it's easy to build, like we believe that is where training should live. You get it changes if you get into like compliance and regulation, but at the simplest form, training should be about delivery of speed, not necessarily the fidelity of the content.
So, what steps do you take to assess what a company needs when they come to you?
Mostly we just gather needs and input. So like listening to the people, the data, when they come to us, they say, here's what we want to accomplish with our training. How can you help us? Most of the time we're talking to professionals that are in a industry like sales enablement, where they already have all the training built and they just need a way to deliver it. They might have a delivery system for the content, but they want the practice functionality, which I think is core to our product. So it's really about gathering the needs and inputs and really helping them understand exactly how they should build training, and then tracking those KPI, the KPIs we set up at the beginning with them over the course of their contract.
And other than that online video, are there other training tools involved?
Yeah, you can do video, you can do email. So if you have a salesperson that is doing a lot of pitching via email, you can practice that. We have a integration with Zendesk, which allows customer service reps to practice tickets that are submitted through Zendesk. So if you see the same problem coming up all the time, you as a manager can create the ticket for your entire team to practice. We have audio practice for like phone calls, and then just open practice, like just create a question that people can answer.
So you can't be in marketing today without having the ROI word pop up or acronym pop up. How are results measured?
Well, I can put it in regards to marketing, because every team uses Lessonly at Lessonly. We do monthly product launches. We use Lessonly to enable our sales team and CX team on what's coming up, the messaging around those. How does it connect with our brand and our go-to-market message of do better work? We measure that with how many of the salespeople took the lesson, when did they take the lesson. We give them practice modules, like if somebody asks you about this feature, how are you going to respond? And then at the end of it, we measure the success of the lesson based off of like a qualitative approach with a thumbs up from the sales team. So if we get out of the 30 salespeople, if we get 29 of them to give us a thumbs up, then we say that's a success. But really, it's about how many took it all the way through. That's how we measure it.
Is there any data on how salesperson A is really diligent about it? He puts in the practice sessions, and then you see his sales results versus salesperson B who, he watched the lesson, didn't really put the practice sessions in. And are you seeing any direct correlation?
Well, I think yes, but the direct correlation usually starts during the onboarding phase, because after you're onboarded as a salesperson, especially at like a high growth software company, there are so many factors that contribute to you hitting quota. But what's pretty clear is the onboarding, like the first 3 months of you being an employee. So we can track that if you use software like Lessonly and you are onboarding people through the software, that the onboarding time is cut in half, which means that a salesperson they're setting a meeting in half the time than their counterpart that didn't go through the training.
That's awesome.
What's the cost structure, if I might ask?
Per user.
All right. So I guess I'm curious. What do you guys do at Lessonly to make yourselves do better work?
That's a great question. We use Lessonly. So that's good. But every manager uses Lessonly to train on anything that they could possibly be thinking about, whether it's a product launch. Like I did a session. We also have, I'm going to back up here. We also have mass classes where a leader at Lessonly will run a 1-hour training session, and then we'll turn that into a lesson and distribute it to the company. So I did a lesson today about time management and process and planning, and we're turning that into a lesson in Lessonly and delivering it to the entire company. But that's how we do better work. At the very beginning of the company, the mission statement when Max started it 6 years ago was we help people do better work so they can live better lives. And we believe that if an employee is trained appropriately, we are constantly thinking about how to make somebody more knowledgeable. Ultimately, you're going to be happier. You're going to be happier at home. You're going to be happier at work. And we tend to practice what we preach at Lessonly. And that's why I think our culture is strong. That's why our brand's strong. That's why we have a little bit of different approach to the marketing of Lessonly than some of our competitors. It's just because we care about the human element of all this.
This is really cool that you can just develop these lessons on the fly. Like, oh, geez, here's an idea that you just had today that, this could be a great lesson or something that you've learned, and you can it's a great sharing platform. So just getting back to the cost structure, is there an unlimited amount of lessons you can put on the platform? It's just literally you're just paying by the user?
Yep.
That's awesome.
I saw, too, that you had a little mascot that kind of travels around with you guys, too, on the website.
I figure you guys would jump right into that one.
Yeah, exactly. We have a platypus.
Right.
I know. We have Ollie Llama, and Ollie's been around since the company was started. It was more of a joke, and then he was kind of surfacing over the past year when I joined, or a year before I joined. I joined 2 years ago, and we doubled down on Ollie, and llamas are everywhere now. We got lucky that there's some consumer trend right now where like llamas are cool for some reason. So
I have to ask, Kyle, how different is Lessonly than places you've worked before?
it's different. The size is different. Like my past life was spent at ExactTarget, which was, when we were bought by Salesforce, we were 2,700 employees. And that was, we IPO'd, we bought some companies, and then we were bought by Salesforce. I worked for Salesforce for a year and a half, and that was 20,000 employees. And then I worked for a venture capital firm in Boston that was 50. So we're 100. So it's a different size.
Yeah, different culture, I'm sure.
Yeah, but it's the reason I joined Lessonly is because it's fairly similar to what I felt at ExactTarget. And I joined ExactTarget at 600 employees.
Okay.
And our CMO at the time was, 2 rungs up my boss when I joined ExactTarget. He always talked about marketing from the inside out, and that it's not necessarily the amount of time and energy you can put in an outward brand. It's how you live the brand at the company every day. And Lessonly exhibits that. When you have CX team that works overtime to make sure our customers are happy, when you have a marketing team that is focused on making sure that the brand is approachable and dynamic and human, you have a president that's 30 and a CEO that's 30 that are wise beyond their years because they care. If you have those elements of a company, it's very marketable in a good way, and that's why I joined it. ExactTarget had the same thing.
So I understand Lessonly is publishing a book this year. What's it about, and when is it going to be available?
So the book actually comes out in February of next year. We've been working on it for the past 6 months. We talked at the beginning about the 6 stages of better work.
Right.
That's a tactical way to build a great training and enablement program. The Do Better Work book is the soft skills approach to leadership that our CEO practices that I think makes him very good at what he does. So it's 9 chapters on everything from vulnerability to appreciative inquiry to camaraderie. And you can go to lessonly.com and go to the Do Better Work page and sign up to get one. But it's on our website, just lessonly.com.
If someone wanted to connect with you, Kyle, what's the best way to do that?
Best way to connect with me is on LinkedIn. And if you want to know more about Lessonly, you can connect with me or just go to lessonly.com. And that has everything you could possibly need to know.
Well, great. We'll put all of that stuff in our show notes, too, so anybody that's mobile while listening to this, you don't have to pull over right now and figure that out.
Okay.
Thanks, Kyle. You've been a great guest. I appreciate you joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It sounds really exciting, Kyle. Thanks very much.
And if everyone listening likes what they heard today, please don't forget to share, review, and subscribe to Brandstorm.
This is Dan Trzynski along with Nancy Christopher at Platypus Advertising and Design, an awesome company that creates perceptions that influence choice for a variety of regional, national, and global brands on a daily basis. We hope you'll join us next week for another episode of Brandstorm.